Do you think the right thing to do is what's always what we want to do, or sometimes we have to do things that maybe the world or family or somebody else is relying on us to make a decision that's more impactful to the world than what would be more fruitful to us?
I think that happens a lot. You know, I have a fantasy, I suppose, and I don't know how well thought through it is, but one of the things I've been thinking about doing is I'm writing another book at the moment, which I plan to publish in the next year and a half or something like that. It's called We Who Wrestle with God. And perhaps there'll be a tour associated with that. And I want to do a public lecture series on Exodus. But I've been pursuing more artistic endeavors recently again in detail. I did some of that when I first went to graduate school. I made a variety of paintings and so forth. And I really liked doing that. And I really like doing this. I've been working on a musical project with a friend of mine and with my family, which is it's really fun. I really like it a lot. And I wrote a screenplay that's a musical, which I really enjoyed doing. I seem to have somewhat of a gift for writing verse, weirdly enough, especially amusing verse. I think it's amusing, and some other people have thought so. And it's really playful and fun. And I think I could do that. I could do a lot of that, and it would be, in many ways, less demanding than what I'm doing now. And I've talked to my family about that, but they seem to think that, you know, when my wife and I planned this tour, I was unbelievably ill still, and it just seemed like a pipe dream that this was ever going to occur. But if we were going to try it, we had to do it months in advance. And so, but, you know, I outlined the tour for her with my agents, and she said, I asked her when we got off the phone, I said, do you want to do this? And she said, yes. And I was quite surprised at that, actually. I mean, Tammy had been unbelievably ill for months and months and months, like at death's doorstep every day for like 8 months. It was awful. And yet she was on board. And, you know, it's got this great adventurous element to it. And it seems, to your point, that the time is right for it, whatever it is, and so away we go. And that's what we're doing. And it would be possible, in principle, for me to be in my cabin up north and record music and engage in artistic activities and be with her and my family in a more private way. Now, I don't know if I'm suited for that, you know, so that's why I'm saying, well, maybe it's a pipe dream, because I really like being as busy as I can possibly be all the time, you know, and I've kind of trained myself for that. I started training myself for that really when I went to graduate school, because I wanted to find out how much I could do. And I like running at top speed all the time. And so maybe I wouldn't be suited for that, you know. And although the days we've spent, the weeks we've spent engaged in it, I have an art book coming out, a strange art project. It's going to cause all sorts of trouble. Coming out probably in September or October, and a bunch of music that'll accompany that, which is also going to cause a lot of trouble, I believe. I really enjoyed doing it. It's really engrossing and fun and playful, and I liked working on this screenplay. We've got a bunch of music being recorded for it, and that's called The Water of Life, the screenplay. It's a great old fairy tale. So, but to your point, sorry, you have a responsibility beyond the narrow confines, let's say, of a particular interest, even if it's an artistic interest, a valid interest. And you play the role that is set in front of you that constitutes the best path forward. And there's obviously a market for what I'm discussing, a market, let's say, an interested audience. And so, and I love doing that too. That's the other thing. I love doing it.
Pat.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because I think the line of questioning that you're asking Dr. Peterson is, overall, you're talking about being the reluctant hero. That was the sort of the initial analogy that you gave with Joe Rogan, where like the guy said, no, that's not what Joe is. Joe is not trying to be a hero. And you're like, sometimes, you know, it's not who you want to be, it's who people need you to be. I mean, it's like Joe
isn't trying to be a hero.
No,
he's just being a hero.
No, okay,
zero.
correct.
Yeah.
But you know, it's almost like Neo from The Matrix. He's like, it's like, we need you. You're the chosen one. It's like, whoa, what are you talking about? So Pat, essentially what he's asking you is like, Lincoln, you know, Churchill, Trump even. These are people, whether they were reluctant heroes or not, these are people that have changed the world. And you're more saying like, look, Sigmund Freud, Gandhi, more the philosophical line. But ultimately what I think Pat is getting at is like, who changes the world more? Dignitaries, presidents, prime ministers, or thinkers? And you say it's thinkers. So that's
for sure it's thinkers.
Okay, so that is ultimately
and that's
the
even why
debate
someone
that you guys are having right now.
Both Churchill and Lincoln are good examples. I mean, they're a melding of the two, and that's what makes them really unique. Yeah.
So that's ultimately what your line of questioning
all
was,
I'm
right?
saying is, listen, all I'm saying is the following. I'm sitting there looking at a lot of guys that should throw their name in and go out there and compete, and they're not.
Yeah, and that's a problem. Okay, so we could address. Well, look, a lot of the people I know who would make, who would make extraordinarily competent political leaders. So these are people who've built exceptionally complicated enterprises from the bottom up in an extremely creative and diligent way, and who mastered that. They won't throw their hat in the political ring, partly because they have other things they're doing that they regard as more significant, and often they are. And this is a big problem, because what it means is that the pool of qualified political candidates is much narrower than it might otherwise be.